So this is the Sandra Birchmore press conference following the indictments that were actually filed over, I think, either yesterday or sometime over the weekend for the arrest of Matthew Farwell, who has been accused of brooming with a B, but the B stands for, and R-ing Sandra Birchmore when she was a minor for about 8 years, up until she was around 23 years old and fell pregnant with his child, allegedly. Out of that, finding out that news, he got really enraged, really upset. If you've been following this case, you probably have seen that security cam footage of him entering and exiting her apartment complex, which was in Canton. So the Canton Police, Norfolk County, has been involved in the early stages of this investigation as well too. So some of the same players from the Karen Reed case, and now he's been charged with her unaliving. Whereas previously it was ruled as her a self unalivement. Now he's been named as the unaliver. So this is the press conference being held today. We're a little bit behind live time, but I just want to give you some of that context in case you are unfamiliar with this case. We're going to go into more of like the background of the specifics, but they highlight the timeline pretty well in this press conference. And then we'll, of course, go into the actual indictments and what they look like, what's stated in them, so we can read along and follow as well, too. It's not that long. It's only a couple pages or so. So I just wanted to stop today's activities to post this video and catch you all up on the Sandra Birchmore news.
Good afternoon. On February 4th, 2021, Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment. The charges filed today in federal court allege that she was in fact murdered by Matthew Farwell 3 days earlier. At the time of her death, Sandra Birchmore was a 23-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her, and she was pregnant with her first child. We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Matthew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department. And when it became clear to Mr. Farwell that he could no longer control Sandra Birchmore, he allegedly silenced her permanently. This morning, Matthew Farwell was arrested on a federal grand jury indictment, charging him with one count of killing a witness or victim. Specifically, Mr. Farwell is charged with violating Title 18 United States Code 1512 for killing Sandra Birchmore with the intent of preventing her from communicating information about his possible commission of federal crimes. How did this all unfold? What happened here? Well, back in 2010, a 12-year-old Sandra Birchmore applied to join the Stoughton Police Department's Explorers Program, which introduces teens to policing. Officer Matthew Farwell was an instructor in that program. And as alleged in court documents, he befriended Sandra Birchmore, contacted her online, went to the library with her, became friends on Facebook, essentially groomed her. And then he committed statutory rape by having sex with her when he was a 27-year-old police officer and she was just 15 years old. Mr. Farwell continued to have a sexual relationship with Sandra Birchmore until her death 8 years later, allegedly meeting her for sex regularly when he was on duty and being paid by the Stoughton Police Department. Now, in the weeks leading up to Sandra Birchmore's death in February 2021, she found out that she was expecting a baby. And she told Mr. Farwell that he was the father. According to court documents, Ms. Birchmore was very excited about becoming a mother, buying baby clothes and other items, taking precautions to ensure the health of her new child. Sandra Birchmore had good friends. She had a good job. She had dreams of becoming a nurse, and she had a child on the way. But Mr. Farwell did not share in that excitement. It's alleged that Mr. Farwell reacted quite negatively to the news that Sandra Birchmore was pregnant with his child. And he acted angrily, it is alleged, when Sandra Birchmore started making requests of Mr. Farwell around doctor's appointments and ultrasounds and what information would be on the birth certificate. Mr. Farwell was losing control in late 2020, early 2021, and the information that Sandra Birchmore possessed about his illegal conduct was in danger of slipping out. In fact, word started to get out about their relationship. Less than 2 weeks before she was found dead, someone called the Stoughton Police Department and disclosed that Matthew Farwell had had a relationship with Sandra Birchmore. And when Farwell had had a relationship with Sandra Birchmore. And when Mr. Farwell learned
Sorry, it's
about that,
freezing so much,
that
guys.
call, he
There's
became
a lot of people
visibly
tuning
angry.
in.
Mr. Farwell, it is alleged in these court papers, started to lose his patience, lose his temper, and the 6'4" Mr. Farwell started to be physically violent with 4'10" Sandra Birchmore. And Sandra Birchmore told her friends that Mr. Farwell had pushed her and shoved her and put her in a chokehold. She was scared. And during that same time, Mr. Farwell was allegedly planning Sandra Birchmore's murder. For the first time, he requested a key to her apartment. And she told friends that he was oddly inspecting the apartment and looking at the closet, including the closet that she was found dead in front of. And then it all came to a head on February 1st, 2021. Mr. Farwell went over to her apartment that evening, and he strangled Sandra Birchmore to death. That's the allegation in this case. And he used his knowledge and experience as a law enforcement officer to stage her death to look like a suicide. He allegedly attempted to cover his tracks to literally try and get away with murder. And he almost did until today. Back in 2021, with the information that was available, Sandra Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide or deemed a suicide. But over the last year or so, the FBI and our office have been working exhaustively with our state partners. We've uncovered critical new information, examined the existing information, all of which led to this federal grand jury indictment. If convicted on this charge, Mr. Farwell faces a minimum of life imprisonment. Giving voice to the voiceless, ensuring that no one is above the law, protecting the vulnerable people of Massachusetts, that's the highest calling of people in law enforcement. And this case represents those principles. And every day across Massachusetts, thousands of police officers, federal, state, local law enforcement, put their lives on the line to protect the people of Massachusetts. Mr. Farwell violated those principles, and now he faces very grave consequences. It is disheartening to have to charge law enforcement officers, especially with crimes as serious. But it's our job at the Department of Justice to investigate potential crimes without fear and without favor. We do in this office what we've been doing for decades with our federal partners like the FBI. We follow the facts, regardless of where they lead. We apply the law and the principles of federal prosecution, full stop. We are not influenced by social media chatter. We are not influenced by politics. We're influenced by the facts and the law. Our mission is to do our level best to do justice in every case. And our mission today is to do justice for Sandra Birchmore. Lastly, I want to note that we are
Take that,
sharing
Morrissey.
the information and the evidence that we developed in this case with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, with the Massachusetts State Police, and with the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, so they can assess whether state charges may be warranted in this situation. And I want to thank those three agencies. I also want to thank the Stoughton Police Department for their assistance in our investigation. Lastly, I want
We put this case is about seeking justice for Sandra, who we believe was killed by
Ooh, that
Matthew
skipped
Farwell
ahead. I'm sorry.
after he allegedly groomed and sexually abused her when she was just 15 years old, violating her body and her civil rights.
I'm
It's
gonna just
also
let
about
it
keeping
play
Mr.
because he
Farwell
keeps
from
skipping. I'm
getting away
sorry,
with
guys.
murder and from harming anyone else. We in law enforcement are entrusted with immense authority because our decisions can have life-changing consequences, both good and bad. To temper that power, we must adhere to the highest of ethical standards. What we believe Officer Matthew Farwell did, as outlined in today's indictment, is depraved and a gross betrayal of his sworn oath and the public's trust. Let me be clear. Matthew Farwell's gun and badge did not grant him authority to violate the Constitution. And it certainly didn't entitle him to sexually exploit, abuse, and rape a child. before killing her and her unborn baby in an attempt to cover up his alleged crimes. What's also troubling is we believe Matthew Farwell staged Sandra's body and her apartment to make it look like she had died by suicide. In the days that followed, this sworn police officer repeatedly lied to Massachusetts State Police investigators about the nature of their relationship. It's a stark contrast to the sheer excitement and pure joy that Sandra felt when she told Farwell that she was expecting his child, texting him a photo of a poster she had made celebrating the pregnancy. Our investigation also uncovered additional evidence that is inconsistent with someone choosing to die by suicide. In the hours leading up to Sandra's death, she reached out to a photographer to inquire about booking a newborn photo shoot. She also reached out to a friend about obtaining baby clothes. And at the time that she was in the middle of doing laundry when she died, with a load in the washing machine and another one in the dryer. There's no question this was a complex investigation, and our work is not done. Our agents, analysts, and financial investigators reviewed tens of thousands of text messages, emails, and financial records, conducted dozens of interviews with family, friends, and experts, and analyzed the crime scene. We urge anyone with information about the circumstances surrounding Sandra's death to contact the FBI. Committing murder to eliminate victims and witnesses is heinous, and it shakes the very core of our justice system, which depends on people truthfully testifying to what they know. Today's arrest shows that anyone who tries to interfere and retaliate against victims and witnesses in an attempt to subvert the rule of law will have to answer for it. After all, the public's trust is critical for our justice system to function properly. That's why the FBI will do everything in its power to bring to justice anyone who tries to undermine that trust. Our hearts go out to Sandra, to the Birchmore family, and all who knew and loved Sandra. On behalf of the FBI, I want to thank them for their cooperation, patience, perseverance, and fortitude. I also want to thank our agents and analysts for their hard work and dedication, Acting U.S. Attorney Josh Levy and his team for their partnership, and both Chief McNamara of the Stoughton Police Department and Colonel Mon with the Massachusetts State Police for their assistance in helping us move this investigation forward. Thank you.
Next, Steve.
Take some questions.
John, why did it take so long to go from suicide, finding suicide, to now murder?
Well, I think when you have a chance to look through the court papers, you'll see how exhaustive this investigation is. Obviously, this is an incredibly serious charge. There was a lot of forensics and other evidence that had to be marshaled, expert witnesses, et cetera. So we move as fast as we can, and we also have a duty to get it right.
Was there a rush to find a suicide because this involved a police officer?
Yeah, our office wasn't involved in the initial determination of a suicide, so I can't speak to that.
Oh, the shade.
Yeah, we get leads on cases all the time from all different sources. I'm not going to comment on how we get information on how we got into this one.
As you said initially, this was considered a suicide, but it seems like there's a plethora of evidence to suggest otherwise. Surveillance, text messages. How was that all missed for the first 2 years?
Yeah, I'm only in a position to comment on what we've done on this investigation. Those questions are not something I'm able to answer to. We like I said in my comments, we started pulling this string and followed the evidence and got new evidence to put together the case we put together today.
What evidence tipped you off?
I'm sorry, sir?
What evidence led you to
It's you're never able to pick one piece of evidence that is the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's really an accumulation. We have to go in front of a jury, 12 citizens, and convince them beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Farwell is guilty. That's on us. He's presumed innocent today, and he will remain innocent until we meet that burden. But it's all the evidence in combination makes that case.
Did the state medical examiner's office plan to change the cause of death on her birth death certificate, and did you determine who the father?
Oh, good question.
Well, I'll take those in reverse order. I'm not going to comment on the second piece. What we have alleged in the court papers is that Ms. Birchmore told Mr. Farwell several times that he was the father. And your question about the state medical examiner, obviously, they don't report to me, and that's a question better directed to the state medical examiner.
Matthew is mentioned here, but we've heard reports over the years of several other officers. Have you guys conducted any other ongoing investigations related to something?
So I think Assistant Special Agent Charge Kelleher alluded to the fact this is an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to comment on what the other pieces are that we're looking into, but it's an active investigation. Shelley.
This is a death penalty eligible case. Is that on the table, or is that already off the table?
Shelley, you're absolutely correct. The maximum penalty under this statute as charged is a sentence of death. And whether to seek the death penalty in a federal case is decided at the highest levels of the Department of Justice. That decision has not been made on whether the death penalty was sought in this case, and that
Okay.
process will continue. But I can't really can't comment on it beyond that.
So he might face death.
Not going to comment on
If
it.
they
It's
decide.
it's a process that involves a lot of people at the Department of Justice, and I'm not going to share my view on this.
Did other officers in Stoughton or Stoughton government know about eliminating the underage sexual contact that Matthew Farwell was having with Sandra when it was going on in those early 2010, 11, 12, 13?
You know, I'm not going to comment on information that's not in the public record. As you heard, this is an ongoing matter, so we're going to continue to look into this matter. And if there's other individuals that we develop evidence that they've violated the federal law, we'll proceed.
Josh, can you touch on, I mean, murder, state usually is the one that handles murder charges. Obviously, feds have jurisdiction on many cases, but what made this one get to federal authorities? And do you think that
That's a good question.
You know, there's a lot of overlap in the law between the federal government has jurisdiction over and what the state government has jurisdiction over. When someone comes to our office with credible information that a police officer may have been involved in a murder and underlying legal violations as set forth in the indictment, we're going to investigate that case every time. They come in different shapes and sizes, but that is our duty to the public, is to pursue credible leads like that and investigate them fully.
To follow up on her question, we saw Lieutenant Toledo said earlier, this was Norfolk case first. You mentioned that they've been state partners throughout this. Does your office look into what may have went wrong in their investigation?
This case about what went wrong for Sandra Birchmore and how she was treated by Matthew Farwell and how he violated her rights and ultimately killed her. That's what this case is about. It's not about what happens at other state agencies. This is about justice for Sandra Birchmore.
This is the second major death investigation where your office has come to a different conclusion than Norfolk County DA. I'm sure you can't comment on that, but is that normal for federal prosecutors and state prosecutors to reach different conclusions on investigations?
So I'm here to talk about one case. We got about 1,000 cases in the office. I'm not going to comment on any other case in the office. I would just caution you to not extrapolate too much from one case out of all the things that are happening in our office.
This district has brought a charge of killing of a witness. I can't think of any others. I'm wondering if there are others.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. That's a question. That's an answer we could get for you, but I don't know the answer to it, Shelley. We bring charges of obstruction of justice frequently, as you know, but I'm not pulling one off the top of my head that matches this. Sorry. That's okay. Yeah, I'm not in a position to comment on things that are in the public record. That I wouldn't take that as yes or no. But I'm limited up here under local rules to talk about what's in the public record.
Can you talk about the arrest? What happened with the arrest this morning?
I'm going to ask ASAC Kelleher to speak to that.
So this morning we had a SWAT team that was in a location where Mr. Farwell was. He was taken into custody. He was driving a truck, gravel hauler, and he was safely taken into custody by the SWAT team, which is, what we strive to achieve every time we do an operation like this. No, he was in Revere.
Not in a neighborhood in Revere, was he on the highway?
No, it was in the shopping plaza in Revere. Mhm.
Did he say anything?
We have not tried to interview him.
That dump truck you're driving, is that his new employment? presumably?
Again, I wouldn't comment on that here at this time, but he was driving the dump truck when he was arrested.
Before your agency got involved, there were other agencies investigating this. Can we expect to see any fallout from those lead investigators from other agencies who were responsible for finding justice in this case and not?
I think the juncture we're at right now is that we are working with state agencies. We've developed, as I said, new information that we're going to share with our state partners. They're going to make decisions about what charges are appropriate under state law, if any.
Can you tell us who the lead investigator was in this case before your agency got involved?
I can tell you the lead investigator was for our matter, which was the FBI. I don't know. I honestly don't have information on who the lead was in a state investigation. I don't get that type of information.
You've said that you're not, you're looking just to investigate Birchmore charge death, that's the focus of this case, not what law enforcement agencies prior to you did. Is that within your jurisdiction to investigate what those state agencies did?
I think what I said was I'm here to talk about Sandra Birchmore, and I'm not here to talk about other things that are happening in the United States Attorney's Office. It's 125 federal prosecutors doing a lot of different things. In this case, this press conference is about one young woman who we allege, was killed by a Stoughton police officer, Matthew Farwell.
Saying how your investigation might be complicated by the fact that you're going now into federal court where there is this NE found that it was suicide, the Norfolk County DA's office opted not to pursue it. How does that affect your efforts now to prosecute?
Good question. Look. In evaluating whether to bring charges, we obviously look at all the evidence that's both incriminating and exculpatory. All that gets turned over to defense lawyers. Mr. Farwell will be well represented in this case, and those facts will be put out in front of a jury. We are confident that when all the evidence is presented to a jury, if it gets that far, that those issues will not prevent us from securing a conviction.
Have you done your own, have your own person do an autopsy?
We,
Come to a different conclusion? I know there's another one out there that's already been reported.
That's correct. There's an expert witness. I don't want to get into exactly what that person did or didn't because I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it's in the court documents. Who has a tremendous amount of experience in this field and has reached a different conclusion.
Just a couple more questions. And just to be clear, you're not going to comment on the other two officers who had sexual relations with this Birchmore?
That's correct.
How unusual is it for a police officer to be charged with a capital offense involving sexual crime?
It's unusual in my experience. I don't have a full handle on how often this has been done nationwide, but it's an unusual situation. And that's partly why it's so incredibly disturbing.
Anyone else?
Do you have any words of caution to departments that have police explorer programs based on what you learned from your investigation about how this was able to unfold?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to my swim lane. I'm not an expert on police explorer programs, and so I really don't have any intelligent answer to that question.
Thank you.
Okay. That looks to be the end of the press conference. Pretty short. Pretty short. That was streamed on Facebook. That was the link. It was shared by shout out to LTL. Go follow, give him a follow. He shared the link. I think that was the U.S. Attorney's direct pool camera stream. So it was nice and loud, clear. Apologies again earlier on in the video for all the glitches. So you can see my hair is still wet. I literally jumped out of the shower when I heard that they were going to be holding a press conference for this. For these indictments today at 1:45 p.m. So I wanted to make sure I covered that for you. I'm sorry I didn't hop on live. I was thinking about it, planning on to, but I know we have a live planned for either later tonight or later this week. I'm thinking probably later this week. I know most of you guys voted for tonight. Just logistics speaking, I have some stuff to do with my apartment, handle some paperwork stuff, so I might not be able to go live tonight, but for sure this weekend, absolutely. So I'll keep you posted with the time and date for that. But let's stay on with Sandra Birchmore. So we kind of got a timeline series of events. There's been other things going on beyond the scenes, a couple of other hearings revolving around the other two officers who were also linked to not necessarily her unaliving, but to the brooming charges. I can't use the actual word. Brooming charges and R-ing charges and ABUSE. So that has also been going on, but I wanted to pull up the actual a little bit more information about what went on today, what went behind this arrest, and going through the actual indictment itself so we can read it out loud. And then obviously we'll keep you posted as more and more updates unfold. If he does get, I'm sure he will get interviewed at some point, whether he'll plead guilty or not guilty. Now, I had seen on Twitter as well too, Twitter X, and I don't know how true or not true this is, but it seems like he's going to, and Ted Daniels been pretty good with sharing some of these updates. So I'll just pull this up quick. That he has an arraignment today as well too. I don't know if this came prior to this press conference, if that there's any validity to that. I will let you guys know. I don't know if that'll be filmed. Probably not, would be my hunch, but we'll see. So Ted Daniel reports acting USA Josh Levy for Massachusetts says that Matthew Farwell lost his temper and patience Sandra Birchmore after she told him he was pregnant. So again, that came just from the press conference we watched. This is part of the indictment. So it reads, unaliving a victim slash witness, which I thought was interesting too. And I don't know what you guys thought about that specifically. If you think she was going to potentially be a witness in some of the other investigations going on behind the scene, if she was working with, I don't know. I'm kind of jumping into this case a little bit later into the game. I know some of you guys have been following this very, very closely. So let me know what you think about them using that specifically in the indictments. And we'll go over that in a second as we're reading it out. But I thought that was interesting when they suggested that. I thought that, is it possible she could have been, I mean, if they were planning on doing an investigation anyways into the corruption, because I know there was also allegations, I believe, about fraud and clocking in extra. Like, this has been not just, I don't think, with these specific officers, but holistically in the state of Massachusetts with the state police. There's been a lot of recent allegations that have come out. I believe recent indictments as well too of other officers of differing departments too for clocking in overtime hours that they weren't actually working and essentially committing fraud. So I don't know if she was going to be potentially a witness in some sort of case or investigation for that element of it, and then all of this other stuff started to really come to light. I don't know. But what say you? What do you guys think? Do you think that there's any weight behind them saying witness slash victim, if that's like a standard statement that they make? Clearly, she is the victim in this case. She was unalived by somebody. She didn't do it herself. They have enough evidence. They feel confident to move forward and pressing charges against him. So I'm inclined to believe that maybe she was going to be part of a bigger investigation. I don't know. They don't need to prove motive at the end of the day. And it seems like right now the theory that they're driving home is Matthew Farwell was pissed that she got pregnant. So this was an article shared by, I always give Boston 10 all the clout, but I want to give some to the local media, like the Fall River Reporter, which has been doing extensive coverage on the Karen Reed case. There are a lot of similar players. Now, I know some of the questions that were being asked by some of the media was a little hard to hear at times, but essentially a lot of them, what I gathered they were getting at is like, hey, do you think it's kind of an interesting coincidence that your office continuously gets tapped to help with these investigations, because clearly there's something fishy going on in the state of Massachusetts, and specifically with this department, because she lived in Canton, and that is where the investigation started, even though he was a Staunton officer. So really, really interesting stuff. And like I said, we'll continue to cover it. But let's read. So this published just an hour ago. Former Staunton officer charged in connection to death of Sandra Birchmore, former Massachusetts police officer who voluntarily decertified, has been charged in connection with the death of a young woman. FBI Boston SWAT team arrested former Staunton police officer Matthew Farwell. So this goofy looking mother effer here. This is Sandra. For allegedly unaliving Sandra Birchmore. FBI stated that they took him into custody without incident, as we just heard them explain. According to the indictment, on or about February 1, 2021, Farwell allegedly unalived Sandra Birchmore by strangulation, which is interesting because we just covered the Wade Wilson case. It is alleged that Farwell staged her body in an apartment to make it appear as if Birchmore had committed her own unalivement. The indictment alleges that Farwell unalived Birchmore with the intent to prevent law enforcement from learning about his relationship or commission or possible commission of federal offenses. Farwell was employed as an officer for the Staunton Police Department beginning in March of 2012, so just under 10 years. He resigned in 22. Oh, so sorry, exactly 10 years. He was an officer. On July 1, 21, Farwell was automatically certified as a police officer in Massachusetts. On October 10, 2022, the commission denied the Staunton Police Department's application for recertification of Farwell. So he was granted certification to be, I guess, continue to be a police officer. And then they were like, no, 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 no. We're not recertifying you, bro. You're out. It is alleged that he had a intimate relationship with, or I don't even want to say intimate because it's not, and I hate when people describe it like this, like it wasn't consensual. Doesn't matter if she was over the age of 21 at this point in their in this whole thing. It started with her when she was a minor. She was broomed. Like there's no way around it. So, not intimate relationship, but for having being a broomer with a Broomer, for brooming her with a member of the Staunton Police Explorers Program, Sandra Birchmore, beginning in 2013 when she was only 15 years old. And when the respondent was 27 years old, Farwell allegedly subsequently pursued additional S encounters with Birchmore by various means, including by sending her text messages while on duty as recently as 2020. And remember, he's married. I think he already has his own kids too back at home. It's further alleged that the S encounters between Farwell and Birchmore continued over an extended period of time until just months before her death when she was only 23 years old. So sad and upsetting. I think actually she was born in 97, so it's only 2 years younger than me. She would have been 26. Like, it's just so awful. It's so terrible. Additionally, it was alleged that Farwell was untruthful during the Massachusetts State Police investigation into the death of Birchmore, as he purportedly misrepresented the extent of his encounters with her to investigators. In August 2022, so 2 years ago, the Staunton Police Department sustained allegations that Farwell engaged in misconduct, becoming unbecoming of an officer, was incompetent, untruthful, and failed to display the proper attention, devotion to his duty. Later that year, on November 22nd, the commission authorized the division to conduct a preliminary inquiry into the allegations of misconduct against Farwell. On June 30th, 2023, so fast forward, the division submitted its report of preliminary inquiry to the commission. Subsequently, on July 12, 2023, the commission voted to initiate disciplinary proceedings against Farwell. On several occasions, Farwell allegedly engaged in very inappropriate, disgusting acts with Birchmore while on duty as Staunton police officer. To conceal this activity, it is alleged that Farwell falsely represented he had worked certain hours, so going into the fraud charges, when in fact he was not working, but engaging in very disgusting, heinous acts with the then minor victim. Farwell's gross contact with Birchmore continued until her death on February 1st, 2021. I mean, if these allegations are true, I have absolutely no sympathy for this awful poop stain of a human being. But again, innocent until proven guilty, but I feel like this is one where there seems to be a lot of evidence. December 2020, Birchmore learned that she was pregnant. According to court documents, she was excited about the pregnancy. She was scheduling doctors. So just like we heard, she was asking her friends if, hey, can I get, some baby clothes, borrow some baby clothes. She had a poster, they said, too. She told Farwell that he was a father and that she expected him to be involved, as one should. I mean, Not for nothing, you also groomed her entire essentially young adolescence life up until her early adulthood, when that's like you're really just learning about yourself and your body. And what a just awful human being, if this is true. Birchmore disclosed loved ones that he allegedly became violent with her when they discussed the pregnancy and his role in the child's life. At one point, while she was pregnant, he allegedly held Birchmore in a headlock and told her he wished she were dead. Like, what an awful human being. And this comes from Birchmore herself, Sandra Birchmore, saying this to family and friends allegedly. And I'm sure there's text messages or phone calls or witnesses they're going to call if this in fact goes to trial. Who knows? But I mean, if he's a narcissistic, you know what? He's probably going to plead not guilty. My opinion. But I didn't know this. I didn't know he had prior violent encounters with her as well, too. So a little bit of DV as well. What a stand-up guy. And he's supposed to be sworn to protect us, right? Gotta love it. On or about January 20th, 2021, Birchmore's friend called the Staunton Police Department and referenced Farwell and Birchmore's very disgusting, inappropriate relationship. Upon learning this, Farwell allegedly then sent Birchmore angry text messages, and a few days later, approximately 1 week prior to her death, Farwell visited Birchmore at her apartment in Canton and asked if she could give him a spare apartment key and keep it a secret. It is further alleged, like what a creepazoid, that 1 week prior to her death, Farwell visited Birchmore's apartment and began looking through her closets and bathroom, conduct which made her feel uncomfortable. Court documents allege that on February 1, so they're using that as we just heard in the press conference. Again, this is just kind of like a summary of what we heard. This was fully premeditated, which is interesting because I don't know how many people knew or didn't know that or believed it to be premeditated. I mean, I just didn't, going into this a little bit later in the game, I had seen this security cam footage of him entering and exiting her building and wearing like that weird hoodie and covering his face, which, I mean, it was easy to find out, like, hey, we know it was you on the camera. Like, I don't know what you're doing, buddy. But I think it's interesting. I didn't know that he had went to her house like a week prior to that, apartment a week prior to that, and kind of like sussing out like how he was going to do it. Like, how creepy and eerie is that? And she obviously made her feel uncomfortable enough, allegedly, that she said something to other people. The court documents allege that on February 1st, 2021, facing perceived imminent disclosure of his criminal conduct, Farwell unalived Birchmore to silence her. December 29th, 2022, Darlene Smith, as the personal representative of the estate of Sandra Birchmore, filed a lawsuit against Matthew Farwell and former officers William Farwell, because remember, they're brothers, and Robert Devine, that creepy guy who had a hearing recently, the town of Staunton and the Staunton Police Department. The lawsuit states that the complaint claims of a grooming scheme and misconduct led to Birchmore's death. Friends and family of Birchmore had found her death to be more suspicious, despite reports listing her death as her own unalivement. The following is a statement from Staunton Police Chief Donna McNamara. The day after Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton apartment, I ordered a lengthy and aggressive internal affairs investigation, the instructions of which made it clear that no stone should be left unturned. So, Chief Donna. Staunton Police has supported other agencies and worked with other agencies, including the FBI, that today resulted in an unalivement indictment that concluded that Sandra was unalived. The alleged unalivement of Sandra is a horrific injustice. The allegations against the suspect, former Staunton police officer, represent the single worst act of not just professional misconduct, but indeed human indecency that I have observed in nearly 3 decades. Yeah. It has been my life's work over the last 3 years to ensure that justice was served. I have stated previously, Sandra Birchmore received no justice during her life. It is imperative that justice be served in her death. And I agree. I agree with that. I mean, I don't know enough to be like, is she just speaking out of her butt? Was she there? Was she around for this exact investigation? Was she recently? I have no idea. You guys let me know who have been following this a little bit closer, but nonetheless, I want to report on this because it's important. And there are some interesting key players that were involved loosely or loosely connected, I would say, to this specific investigation, as well as the Karen Reed one, which we have been covering extensively on this channel. The charge of unaliving a witness or victim carries a mandatory sentence of death or life in prison. Sentences. So, I mean, like, this is crazy. Crazy. And I didn't know, but I guess because it's on a federal level that they can inflict the death penalty. I mean, again, we just saw this with the Wade Wilson case. He was just sentenced yesterday to death. So I didn't know that. I just figured like it's a state by state issue, but I guess on a federal level they can make that decision whether they are going to sentence him to death or not. Who knows? Who knows what's going to unfold? But we will be here to cover it all. So this is the. Let's see if I can actually like click on it. Click on a link or anything. Nope. Can I? Nope. Okay, I'll just read it from here. Wait, can I? Yeah, I can. Here we go. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. So this is the indictment. It's only a couple pages, so we'll fire through it. USA versus Matthew Farwell. Count 1. Unaliving a witness or victim. Indictment at all times relevant to this indictment. General allegations. Between on or about March 27th, 2012, and on or about April 1st, 2022, the defendant, Matthew Farwell, herein after Farwell, was a sworn officer of the Staunton Police Department in Staunton, Massachusetts. In his capacity as a Staunton police officer, Farwell also served as an instructor for the Staunton Police Explorers Academy, hereinafter the Police Explorers. Does anybody know if they still do it, by the way? I feel like that would be really bad taste. Just saying. Which was a vocational education program for local youth, which is just so sad too, because like I remember like this hits home for me specifically because I also, when I was a kid, I went through something very, very similar. Thankfully, nothing to this extreme extent, but nothing ever like escalated to the point where there was physical contact initiated. But I was around Sandra's age, and I remember just being, you go into these innocent things. It was a community theater program, and you feel safe. There's other kids around. This is somebody you look up to, somebody who says that they believe in you and they're giving you the time and attention that maybe you feel like you're not getting at home. And I bring this up because, not to make it about me, but to say that we need to have more conversations around this with our kids, with our youth, and not just because it's something like a program like a police officers explorers program doesn't mean that we're a community theater program where it seems so innocent and sweet that there isn't bad people that are attracted to it. And I'm so sick and tired of people giving badges to monsters like this and letting them keep it. I mean, yes, they might come off initially as these nice, wholesome guys that are family men, right? They always seem to be, right? But why do we keep allowing them to repeat and do until it gets to the point where there is nowhere else to turn and they take it to the most extreme of extremes? I'm so sick of monsters wearing badges, and it just seems to be such a common theme nowadays, not just even in Massachusetts, but all over the world too, right? So I think ultimately we need to have, as parents, I'm not a parent yet, but I plan to be, that we need to pay more attention. I'm an aunt. I know how my sister watches her daughter like a hawk, but even still, like she drops her off at daycare, and like we just need to be prepared and be aware, be consciously aware, not be so quick to trust, which is sad to say, but we also need to have these conversations with our children too, is to let them know that they can talk to us, and that if there is something that they're uncomfortable with or afraid to talk about, that they can. And I'm not blaming Sandra's family at all, or her herself. I mean, she was a child, and it seems like her family did everything that they could to give her the best life possible. But it seemed like she had a hard upbringing. They took advantage of it. They saw that she was vulnerable, and creepy creeps like Farwell just prey on that. So, anyways, 2. Sandra Birchmore was born in May of 97. In or around March of 2010, Sandra Birchmore applied to be a participant in the Police Explorers. At the time, Birchmore was 12 years old. Jesus. Okay. She began participating in the program in or around the spring of 2010 and remained in the program through in or around 2016. Prior to in or around 2012, Farwell was a Police Explorers volunteer. He became an instructor when he started working for the Staunton Police Department in 2012. So he had just started. I didn't know this either. He just started working for the police department. I wonder, like, if any of y'all know, and I'll probably do some digging too in my own time, of like what was he doing before then? Because he was like 27, right? And I think you do probably need, it's probably the same in Massachusetts too, that you need like some sort of like associate's degree or something, and then you can go on to the police academy, and then from there you can become a police officer. So I don't know in terms of like years, like how long that would take, but I imagine, I mean, he's 27 years old. He's starting his new job in the Staunton Police Department. Like, what was he doing before then? I would be so curious, because I feel like a lot of times people's past can be really telling. And sometimes not. Sometimes it's like totally opposite than the facade that they're showing to the public. But I think that's interesting. So when he started working for the Staunton Police Department, he also became a volunteer at the Police Explorers. Before Birchmore attained the age of 16, Farwell engaged in gross, heinous acts with Birchmore, unspeakable things. Unspeakable contact with Birchmore continued until in or around early 21. Staunton Police Department required employees, including police officers, to accurately report their time and attendance in order to receive wages and overtime. During some of the shifts when Farwell was supposed to be performing his duties as a Staunton police officer, he was instead engaging in these disgusting, vile acts with Sandra Birchmore. He failed to disclose that information to the Staunton Police Department. Well, of course he's not going to. He's going to get him in trouble. Like, what is he going to say? And he took steps to conceal his conduct from other department employees. In or around 2020 of December 2020, Birchmore learned that she was pregnant. Birchmore told Farwell that he was the father of her child. On or about January 20th, 2021, Birchmore's friend called the Staunton Police Department and told a department employee that Farwell had been having inappropriate encounters with Birchmore. Shortly thereafter, a Staunton Police Department employee told Farwell about the call. So this was what? This was before her unalivement. Okay, so now we're getting I like how they paint this out, because it gives a really nice, clear timeline of what happens. If you're under 18, you cannot give consent. Can't. Or this, and like I know in some states it's like 17 is the age of consent. And I even think that is like just so bizarro, because I remember when I was 17, I'm like, if you're in high school, if you're still in high school, you should not be dating somebody who is able to go into bars and drink. Like, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. It's gross. It's gross. It's gross. It's gross. Your brain is not fully developed yet. You're not mature emotionally yet to handle certain relationships. And I digress. So back to Sandra. On or about January 20th, 2021, Birchmore's friend called the Staunton Police Department and told the department employee that he had been, okay, we just read that. Staunton Police Department employee told Farwell about the call. I wonder who this employee is. I'm sure they'll get subpoenaed, probably get called as a witness if this does go to trial. On or about February 1st, 2021, Farwell unalived Birchmore. So yeah, 10 days, what? Yeah, a little bit over 10 days, 11 days later. Shortly thereafter, Farwell staged Birchmore's Canton, Massachusetts apartment to make it appear as if she had unalived herself, which is just so gross and calculated and just evil. It's so evil. Grand jury charges. Okay. Grand jury realleges and incorporates by reference the allegations in paragraphs 1 through 8, which we just read. On or about February 1st, 2021, in Canton, in the District of Massachusetts, the defendant, Matthew Farwell, did unalive Sandra Birchmore, a person known to the grand jury, with malice, aforethought, willfully, deliberately, maliciously, and with premeditation. Yep. And with the intent to prevent the communication by any person to a law enforcement officer of information relating to the commission or possible commission of a federal offense, to wit, commission or possible commission of the federal offenses of deprivation of rights under color of law in violation of this code, coercion, enticement, in violation of this other thing, and wire fraud in violation of, all in violation of Title 18, United States Code section, yada, 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 signed by Tory B. Cummings. So, yeah, this was, signed, dated yesterday, filed. They did not dox that. I mean, they did not cover that, where he lives. I feel like for the sake of his family, like I don't want to do that, but I mean, cuz that's like just sad and upsetting. But wow. So, crazy week in the state of Massachusetts for sure. Matthew Farwell has been arrested for the unaliving of Sandra Birchmore. And I feel like finally justice, we're starting to see the wheels of justice turn. Hopefully more comes out, more comes to play. Hopefully this, I mean, honestly, I hope that he does get the absolute utmost full punishment that he deserves. I hope it's not one of those where they come down hard, they crack hard, they seemingly put on this presentation of, oh, we got the bad guy, we're going to give it to him now. And then they let him off in like 15 years or something. I hope he gets the maximum sentence if he is proven to be guilty of this. But it does seem, based on just the little bits of evidence that have come forward, that is incredibly possible. And I think the biggest thing is going to be those text messages. Allegedly, there had been 32,000 text messages. Now, I think I saw this again posted on Twitter. I don't think this was Ted Daniel who reported this. Yeah, Levy said there was no decision made on the death penalty in this case. I don't know. I don't know if he will. But what a message that would be. But I think I did see, let me just check really quick and see, because I've been saving a lot. Yeah, Lank was also one of the initial officers that was on the scene. There's a Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook group. I can link that in the description box below if you want to join. There's been a lot of updates there. Also, LTL has been covering this more extensively over the last couple of weeks, so definitely go give him a follow too. Oh yeah, so I know Turtle Boy Aiden Carney had reported on this case. I feel like sometime like last year, a couple of years ago. And he brought up a really interesting point. I just want to highlight this before we jump, but Yeah, Matthew Farwell texted Sandra Birchmore over 32,000 times. So I guess that's within like the lifetime of when she was in the Explorers program to when she was essentially unalived, I'm assuming. But remember, a big player, key player in this was Nick Garino. He did a full data extraction report on his phone. He didn't find a single text message. How convenient. This is the same trooper who didn't find any of Jen McCabe's deleted phone calls or Google searches. Yep, we heard that whole testimony, and we won't get into that. I have plenty of coverage on that, which I can link to at the end of this video. If you think that's bad, wait until you hear about what he didn't find in the fake victim photo. So this is tied to his, but I mean, this is crazy. Yeah, Birchmore and Matthew Farwell exchanged approximately 32,709 text messages between December 2019, when she was 22, and her death. So this was actually just from 2019 to her death in 2021. So imagine all the fake, because I think he added her on Facebook too. They became Facebook friends, according to the press conference. So, wow. Okay. Those are gonna all come to light. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't plead guilty, but if he's a narcissistic, you know what, he'll plead not guilty. You know how that usually goes. According to a search warrant affidavit prepared by State Police Lieutenant John Fanning. Yep, he was recently I don't wanna say like he skated away, but he was under investigation by, the state police, an internal investigation, but they ultimately found that they couldn't find anything at this time. So he's not being permanently cleared. I don't know what the proper term would be. Not acquitted, but vindicated. But he's been cleared for now. So who knows? Who knows if he's gonna get reinvestigated because of this, or maybe he copped a deal with the Fed. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? More and more is gonna come out for show. In the messages, investigators said they learned that Matthew Farwell allegedly began. Okay, so we just went through this. Investigators didn't find any communications between Matthew Farwell and Birchmore on his phones. So yeah, Birchmore's family home in Staunton and her apartment in Canton, Fanning wrote, coordinating plans to meet clandestinely in a hotel. State police records show he told troopers he deleted all their messages after he left their. Like, what a moron! What an actual moron! And then this is Yep. This is I guess his analysis, right? Or disclosure, in an email disclosure from Fanning to Mattiliano, the detective lieutenant in 21. On February 9th, 2021, Matthew Farwell consented to a data extraction of his personal iPhone 11, which was then extracted by a trooper, Nick Garino. Hot mic drop. Garino. On April 26, 2021, I received Matthew's work cell phone from Staunton Police Department. Through Matthew's attorney, consent was given for a data extraction, probably because he's like, oh, I know I'm in good hands because Garino's a freaking idiot. Doesn't either know how to do his job or he's purposely incompetent. I mean, I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Maybe he's just an idiot. I don't know. Which was performed by Trooper Nick Garino. I analyzed both of these phones and did not find any communication with Sandra Birchmore. He deleted it. We don't have the technology to extract this data and to pull bull crap. This is the 21st century, y'all. Y'all got the technology for that. Nothing is deleted forever once it is out there in the iCloud and atmosphere, especially with the iPhones. Come on now. I hope they call like an Apple employee, like an Apple genius too, to like talk about like how this stuff works. I think that would be really interesting and compelling. Matt had said, ew, they're calling him Matt now. Gross. Farwell, gross offender, had said in a previous interview that he deleted all communications with Sandra. So either they're incompetent, they're lazy, they don't care, or all of the above. And they're trying to cover for a fellow police officer. So what say you? But I find it interesting how people like, oh, and I wanted to bring this up because this, oh my God, guys, this grinds my gears to the core. Now, if you follow me on Twitter, which I know a lot of you don't, I don't really post like too much original content. It's more of like me posting retweets and giving some of my opinions. But I can't stand this woman, y'all. I can't stand this woman. Cannot stand. And I think you all know who I'm talking about because I've ranted about her before. Julie Grant from Court TV. I cannot stand this woman for many reasons, aside from just the Karen Reed case coverage. But she is just like the ultimate bully. Between that, the Ashley Benefield case, I cannot stand this woman. But Turtle Boy, I love it because she goes federal charges against, like, wow, like we're finally getting justice for Sandra. Meanwhile, it's like you're protecting the same people who were loosely connected with this same investigation. Some people who were directly connected, like Nick Orino and Fanning. Just saying. So I love this clapback from Aiden Carney. You were a hack and a fraud who covered for the same cops who it has now been revealed covered for Matthew Farwell after he murdered Sandra Birchmore. You protect murderers as long as the unalivers are cops. And I just couldn't help it because it's crazy. And so many people agree. Shout out to you, Marshall. Julie, you loved protecting the cops involved in both the murder of unalivement of Sandra Birchmore and John O'Keefe. You were pure evil. Hey, are there any of those corrupt cops or the corrupt NCDAO going to be doing you favors while they're sitting in jail? You're scum. Backing for scum. No, how much cover porters like you provide for corrupt cops and DAs? It won't work. It is kind of sick that you helped promote their image in the media while they were R-ing and unaliving a pregnant woman. I noticed you left that part out and covering it up. Shame on you. Yeah, there's a lot, just a lot. WTF, Julie Court TV, you call rope of a minor by cop allegation of gross relations with Birchmore. That's what you call child rope. Gross. That, and this is what I'm saying too. And like this, it's not just I will give it to Julie. It's not just Julie. It's everybody in mainstream media likes to call it like S encounters of like an S relationship. It's not a relationship. It's not a relationship if it's not consensual. Period. End of story. Relationships are consensual. That was not consensual. She was groomed as a child, as a minor. Never had a say, never could give consent. I don't care that at the time of her unalivement, she was over 21. And at that point, you could say, oh, well, now it's consent. It wasn't because she was groomed as a child. She was ABUSED. I think I spelled that right. Since childhood, she didn't know any other way. She probably believed, and I'm just speculating here, but knowing from my own personal experiences as a survivor of that, you convince yourself that this is normal. This is a normal thing. He's just an older guy. And because especially Matthew was only 27, well, like it's not like he was a 40-year-old creep or like one of those like guys driving around in a minivan. He was a cop. He's a good guy. He's one of the good guys. No. No, 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 no. So this is like, and going back to my video earlier that I posted today about Wade Wilson and this romanticizing of just these different relationships. And granted, that's a totally different conversation. But I feel like this is also the media romanticizing it as well too. That is control. That is manipulation. That is not a consensual relationship. Doesn't matter if Sandra was excited to have his child or excited to just have a child in general. It doesn't matter. She was never able to consent in that relationship, and therefore it was not a relationship. So let's stop calling it that. Let's stop calling it that. And even again, I can't just crap on Julie Grant for reporting it as that. She's not the only one. We've read this. That's why every time I saw it, I got so fired up because it's annoying. It's annoying and it's not true. It's not true. That's not what it was. Let's call it what it is. Let's stop with the censorship bull crap here on the internet as well too. It's so frustrating and annoying because we can't call it what it is. So that's why I'm going to call it gross, disgusting, absolutely heinous acts that this man allegedly committed. And if that is found true to be true in a court of law, and he did in fact unalive her, he is the most scum of all scumbags. But again, what's frustrating with people like Julie Grant and even our friend Jennifer Coffindaffer, the FBI agent, is that they all like to hop on this Sandra Birchmore case and call out the corruption, but it's all relative. Similar people dipping their hands in similar pots. So I mean, it's the same people who are connected to the Karen Read case, but of course, because Karen Read is an older woman and it's not a case involving a minor, that, oh, well, she's this evil, jealous girlfriend and yada yada. And I could go on and on and on and on and on about it all day, but I'm not going to because I have other stuff to do. And I don't want to make this video too long, but that is the latest news with Sandra Birchmore. So as more continues to unfold, I will keep you posted here on Alexa's Room. And thank you so much for watching. I will see y'all in the next one. In the meantime, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next Sandra Birchmore update from me. I'll continue to follow this closely now more and more as more continues to unfold in this case, in potentially the trial, if there is a trial. And make sure you hit that like button, most importantly, because that gets Sandra's story out more. And I know it's becoming more and more of a reported case within the Karen Read case followers, right? People who've been following that case, but it's still being very, very underreported by a lot of different national news. So we need to make sure that we're giving it the attention that Sandra deserves, because she does deserve justice. The justice system has failed her when she was alive, and I think this was well said at least by the chief of police. Now, I don't have any comments about her. You guys let me know what you think about her, but I think what she said, at least in that regard, was right, is that justice wasn't served when she was alive. The system failed her. Let's not make that same mistake again. Here to that.